And we're live. Welcome back to the nullified take on the Challenge 37, the finale. 37, the Challenge All Stars 2, I should say, the finale episode. I always do that in the beginning of these podcasts as well. It feels like we've been talking about the challenge forever, but we're going to be in for a bit of a hiatus, I should say, going into the next All-Star seasons. We did get obviously a little bit of a tease at the end there, which we'll definitely get into as well. But let me first introduce you to my friends here on the podcast, Chantel and Drew. Probably needs no introduction, Chantel, on your own channel, channel Reality Realness, which we're streaming to live here as well. How are you doing?
I'm doing really great. I'm a little bit sad that All Stars is ended now. It was just such an enjoyable season to watch. Like even the bad parts were really great, and I'm just wondering what's going to fill its spot right now. I'm like, oh, am I going to have to do a rewatch of everything because I already miss these people? So I'm doing great, and I'm excited to talk about this finale.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to miss a lot of these players, Drew. And, how are you feeling? You've been talking about the challenge probably more so than anyone else on the Angel Cake Entertainment channel for quite a while. How do you feel about, things starting to slow down here a little bit, getting to the end of All Stars 2, and there being a bit of a break probably before we see All Stars 3? And how's things been going on your end?
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about it, I was doing not only 2 videos a week, but then when All Stars started, I was doing 3 videos a week and also doing lives. So, I mean, 4 times the challenge every single week. I mean, that's a good amount of challenge to talk about. I'm filling my time with other shows like Teen Mom and The Amazing Race and more challenge videos that I'm be producing for my own channel, doing some lives and everything. So, I'm also looking into maybe starting a Patreon where I could maybe do like a full rewatch of episodes and try to figure out a way to do that. Definitely not on YouTube, but maybe some sneaky sideways. But for now, I'm just trying to like build up the portfolio, make some good content. And then, I don't know, at the end of this episode, it seems like we could be coming into another season sooner rather than later. So I'm excited for that.
Very excited about the new season that's going to take place in Panama, which should be very exciting. I just want to sort of say hello to everybody here in the live stream. The Hangout Room, who's always been on our live streams, have said here, I didn't like the season 37 twist where the winners of the first phase weren't provided with some sort of an advantage, and the losers ended up getting an advantage. Now, for everyone that is watching this live stream, I did put a poll up on my channel on the Nullified Take here on YouTube. Make sure you jump on that live stream as well and take part in that poll asking about the advantage, or should there have been an advantage after the first phase. And we'll definitely get into that at some point, but it'll be very interesting to hear what people think about the fact that there was no advantage for Nehemiah and Melinda after winning the first phase, and what people thought, if that was okay or not. So jump on there, take part in the poll, and let us know what you think. Sam, back in the live stream here as well, is saying that it's his birthday soon. Sam, happy birthday for when it's your birthday. Just in case we're not live by that time, you've been a loyal supporter of the three of us doing this together, and we've always seen you in the live stream. So I hope you've got a great birthday and that 2022 is going to be a good year for you. Jelly says that they accidentally forgot about the live Twitch stream. I assume that's for you, Chantal, doing your live Twitch stream when you watch the episodes.
Yes, I didn't see Jelly there, and she's apparently Jelly's supposed to have some tea, so maybe they're gonna spill it today.
Nice. Let's get into it. Also in the live stream here is 420 Diva. Welcome to the stream. And also Castor Troy Gonzalez, who have seen it quite a few times. There is an advantage, just wasn't shown. Okay, interesting. So we'll definitely get into that. And then Sudani Speaks. Welcome to the live stream here as well. Now, guys, let's get straight into the episode. We start off here where we finished with Darrell and Janelle. They've just finished the elimination. They stayed in the game. There's no opportunity for them to go back home, get better close. They're the only one that's going to be sleeping in their jersey, getting ready for the finale, and they have to stand on a log and then alternate in between standing on a log and then also sleeping at the same time. Now, I do think for us as viewers, sometimes this is very difficult to appreciate how difficult of a task this can be. It looks like a little bit of a nothing burger when they do it, but having one person being up all the time and then the other person trying to sleep sleep while the adrenaline is running high, because you know you're going to be partaking in something that could win you $500,000 the next day. Must be extremely difficult here. Chantel, were you happy to see this specific twist come back here in the finale? It's not new. We've seen it a few times in the past. We didn't see it in 37 this year.
I mean, I always like them, the level of torture that they put them through. So I definitely appreciated the fact that they had to endure not being able to sleep. I personally don't think it's that hard. Now, it could be that I've had to train basically the last 7 years of my life working as a flight attendant. You get sleep when you can. You don't sleep ever, and so I've been able to fall asleep standing up. Sometimes you wake up to go for a flight at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then it's canceled or it's delayed, and so you go back and you're dressed ready to go for the day in your uniform, and we call it like the corpse sleep, and we just like lie on our bed so we didn't like in our uniform with our full makeup on. So I don't think it's that hard, but I definitely love the fact that they just start the torture right away and make them have to stay up all night.
I was going to say, Chantel, did you ever have to run over 50 miles the next day when you didn't sleep the night before? I mean, let's
I've
be
had
honest, it looked pretty tough.
But imagine I'm responsible for people's lives. So, my being able to facilitate like in any emergency situations, I have to be capable of doing. So I would say, yes, I could.
Touche, fair enough. Drew, what did you think of seeing this come back in here, and specifically seeing the strategy that the teams had on, who was going to be on the pole first, who was going to sleep, and then, MJ looking like he's having the time of his life, immediately snoring as soon as his head hit that, what were they in, like a bed or whatever they were sleeping in. He was snoring, a hammock, there we go. Words are difficult this time of the week, but yeah, like, immediately hitting the hammock and then snoring straight away. Looks like he was the only one who could get knocked out immediately sleeping.
Yeah, I just want to throw it out there. I think I called this last week when I said they were going straight into the night portion. Happy that I could call it. I mean, the challenge can't pull a fast one on me, it seems like. But I will say that I think that this was much more difficult when starting the race the next morning, when normally the night portion comes after they've already done what they did in the beginning of the day for the second day of the finals, where they just were like running, doing 30 miles on a bike, running, just exhausted. So I think standing on the stump would have been a lot more difficult, whereas you kind of like slept, you had a full day at the house, you get to watch an elimination, you're unexpectedly going to be standing on a stump, going to be laying in a hammock, that your adrenaline is just pumping so hard that it's going to be tough to sleep. I mean, I don't think they were thinking that they were going to fall asleep for a long time anyways. After that, they probably were going to celebrate at the house and then wait for TJ to like bombard them at like 6 a.m. telling them to hurry up and get ready. But so I think that this kind of played psychological warfare the next day when everybody was wired the night before, to where maybe an hour into the running those laps, picking up those giant puzzle pieces, trying to memorize all those little squares and everything, really kind of like messed with their minds at that point, rather than the opposite, where people can hardly stay awake and they could fall asleep anywhere, kind of like MJ, who was just falling asleep in a hammock. So I think it was a nice twist. It was a little weird though, because it did feel like it was just one day final.
Yeah, it was a very different feel to this final compared to some other finals that we've seen in recent times. I feel like the challenge has gotten very used to having a mountain, having them run up a mountain, this being like the real epic thing that they have to do in the finale. But in this finale, it was I think because of the geography of where this took place, it was a lot more flat. I think that it was probably, again, one of those finales where maybe it was difficult for us as viewers to appreciate how difficult this was for them to do, because I think endurance played a massive part in this finale. I mean, we had someone like Tech say throughout it that, listen, being on the bike's going to go get those puzzle pieces. It's 6 miles one way, 6 miles the other way. By the end of it, they were doing more than 30 miles. I think they had like 14 puzzle pieces that they had to collect, which basically meant they had to go 7 times doing 12 miles. Which is insane if you think about it. And it took them hours to complete. It looked pretty brutal to do this. And it was a very different configuration, because all of these different challenges had a nucleus that they had to come back to, which is very different when you see a linear challenge sometimes where they have to run. But I actually quite liked the fact that they changed it up a little bit here this season.
I definitely liked how they had to come back to the nucleus so that you can kind of see where the other teams were. But then it didn't, in my opinion, pay off, right? Like, they got so who cares if they got the Mandala, they got phase one done quickly. I know that somebody in the chat was saying that there's some sort of advantage, but we didn't get to see it and it didn't seem to play out for anything. So I wish that there was some sort of benefit to the nucleus happening and being able to see where people's puzzle pieces are on the board and finishing phase one first. I felt that it was enjoyable. I liked watching it. I liked the different tasks they had to do, but it seemed like it wasn't a complete thought. It wasn't finished. It wasn't a full idea.
Yeah, Drew. So according to this, Janelle said, well, basically Janelle's Instagram said that Melinda and Nehemiah got a 1 minute advantage and the Darrell and Janelle got a 30-second advantage. To me, and again, we'll look at this at the end to see what people said on the votes, if they thought there should have been more of an advantage here or not. They probably didn't show it because, let's be honest, that's a slap in the face for doing something that probably took them 6 hours or 7 hours to complete all of those different checkpoints. They only got a minute advantage. Should there have been more consequences or more to this? Because ultimately, love her or hate her, and I think most people love her, let's be honest, especially on this panel, we're all very big Janae fans. She nearly quit, and I didn't see her actually complete the last checkpoint, but yet she ended up winning this whole show with MJ. This will probably be the biggest criticism that some people may have of this win if they're going to be critical.
Well, the challenge is always trying to figure out a way to make every phase challenging, but also competitive. I mean, this was the whole thing in Double Agents where CT and Amber absolutely demolished everybody in that first day. And then they only got, I think, a 2-minute head start up to do the running the race to the second one to get to the finish line. And then they absolutely took those 2 minutes and destroyed everybody when they destroyed the puzzle. So the challenge is trying to make it an advantage for the players, but they can't make it too much of an advantage to where it's a runaway at the end and then it's anticlimactic or it feels anticlimactic. I personally like the nucleus portion. It kind of reminded me of War of the Worlds, which is one of my favorite finals, where there was just that middle with all the different like checkpoints, carnival games, and then you either could do the bikes or try your hand at a multiple carnival games. So to me, I like the differentiation. Nehemiah and Melinda getting lost right in the beginning. It's like you're like 10 minutes into this. Like, just follow the black arrows. How hard is that? And they're like, well, we don't see it right here in front of me. There's blue arrows. I know we were told black, but we gotta go blue. It's like, what? And they were even right next to Darrell and Janelle, who were like running. It's like, just stay with them. If they get lost, you get lost. At least you're like partnered up with each other if you get lost. But yeah, I understand where they were trying to go for with the advantage, but there has to be something. I wish there would have been like take away. You can take away a plate. Like, you don't have to eat like tostada or whatever you don't want to eat. Like, you have to eat the nachos, but choose like one half of the burrito or no tostada. Like, that would have been, I think, a better advantage instead of just 1 minute. But yeah.
You go, Hitchell.
Oh no, I was just agreeing with you that like I wish that the advantage was a little bit better, because with the fact that Melinda and Nehemiah, they went in the wrong direction, came back, and they were still able to overtake everyone, come in first. I couldn't tell how much ahead of they were of other people, but they still beat 3 other teams. They were laying down there waiting for everybody to complete it. As you said, we never saw Janae and MJ complete that phase. It seems as though they didn't have to, which also definitely bothers me. I love Janae. I love MJ. I'm happy that they won, but there's definitely going to be an asterisk for the fact that we didn't see them win that. And then the phase 2 didn't seem complete. Like, it just seemed like it was like the beginning of phase 2. Like, I feel like there should have been more going on than eat a plate, run, solve a puzzle, open a lock, win $500,000. It just seemed like there should have been more to do. Run up a mountain, maybe. I don't know, just more checkpoints. I don't know. Phase 2 just seemed a little weak in comparison to phase 1.
Yeah, they definitely. I think there must have been some sort of a time crunch for when they needed to be out of there or try and fit everything into a specific time period. And it did seem a little bit faster compared to what you would have a normal finale be, because normally it's played out over 2 days, like a proper 2 days, not like sleep overnight and then you do one day for the whole finale. But it kind of, in my opinion, fits into what the All Star season is. It is a condensed version, it is a shorter version. I personally didn't care that it wasn't two specific days that they were doing this finale. And one of the commenters here said, and I can't exactly remember who it was, but whoever mentioned that sort of said, and it's something that came to mind for me as well, is that the Challenge 37 cast, a lot of them would have struggled. I think CT would have killed it in the specific finale if he was here, but a lot of them may have struggled with the amount of puzzles that we had in this finale, because there were puzzles throughout this whole thing and things to be deciphered, encoded, memory challenges. Like, you couldn't just be a jock and come in here, or like a physical beast and just beast your way through this finale. I really appreciated the fact that it really heavily leaned on the fact that you needed to have some smarts to you to be able to get through this. Now, guys, when you look at this finale, was there anything specifically that stood out for you where you thought, like the hangout room here says that they wouldn't have been able to stand on the log for 5 minutes and stand still? I think that would have been a problem for me as well. I'm someone that's very hyper excitable. I jump off the walls all the time. To stand in one spot would be torture for me, more so than actually staying awake. Would there be anything specific when you look at this finale where you thought this would have been a weakness of mine if I was out there doing this? What would you have struggled with? I mean, for me, the obvious thing is the eating challenge. I'm not good with eating stuff. Like, I would have hated to have to drink blood. Like, I think that would have been like the worst thing that you could possibly do to me, is get me to do the eating portion of the challenge. But Chantel, what would you have struggled with if you were to run this finale yourself?
It would have been the food. I mean, I would be able to get it down, but I wouldn't be able to look at it, and I would have to like plug my nose from like the inside and just be like, and just like shove it in and not think about it. But even watching it, people can attest to when I was watching it, I was gagging, watching them gagging. That would probably be the most difficult part for me, but I don't know. I think I would be able to still get it down because it still would taste like food. I just would know that there's nastiness on it. I think it would be okay. The blood, oh, I'd probably have to do that last because I wouldn't want to have the lingering taste of blood and then mixed with all the tostadas and the burrito and the cockroaches and crickets and fish eyes. Like, I'd do the blood last, and yeah, gross. Do we know what animal the blood came from?
They didn't say at all.
The most
Drew,
dangerous
I don't know if you've got any
animal,
answers.
humans. No, I'm just kidding.
I think I'd rather human blood, to be honest. At least it'd be kind of metallic. I just don't know if like it might be more thick if it's another animal. I don't know.
The thing that would have gotten me was the biking with the giant puzzle pieces.
Awkward.
I'm not a huge guy. I mean, I have tiny tables for a reason. It makes me look bigger on camera. But to me, I haven't ridden a bike in, I think, sophomore year of college. I went like to a girlfriend's house, and she's like, let's ride bikes. And I'm like, I haven't ridden a bike since middle school. Like,
really?
And then we did donuts around the cul-de-sac. I kept falling off. So, I mean, just getting on the bike and trying to figure it out once I get into a rhythm, but then it's like I have these giant cumbersome pieces, and then also I'm tethered to another person's biking. Like,
yeah,
I would have crashed harder than Janelle crashed when Ayana wasn't going to get out of the way. Like, I would have just been like, I'm taking Darrell out, and we're just going to be sitting here for a while because I busted my chain and I can't get set up on this bike. But I think that would have been the hardest for me.
You guys don't have like city bikes? In Montreal, it started like probably 10 years ago. It's called Bixi. And so basically it's like, but Bixi is bike taxis. And so they have all these stands where you can get a membership. And back in the day, it was like $68 for the year membership. And you have a little fob, and you'd like take out a bike, and then you could put a bike in a bike stand. So when I was living in Montreal, I had one that was right out front of my house and then right at the restaurant bar that I worked at. And so I'd always take a bike taxi, a Bixi, to work, and then I'd take a taxi home because I was probably drunk. But I'm surprised that you don't have a bike taxis over there.
We might, but I don't really live in the city. I live in a house, and I have a car, and it has 4 wheels, and I just press a pedal and it goes.
Is it standard? Since we're even talking about Amazing
Yeah,
Race as
I
well?
don't do manual.
That's the most USA thing you've said so far. I don't bike, I'm in a first world country. We don't need to
I don't
bike anywhere. We've
bike
got
and I
cars.
don't do manual.
I mean, first of all, I don't leave my house mainly. Like, I sit in my house for 6 out of those 7 days. And then even if I go out to the movies or something, I'm out for like the max 3 hours, and then I'm back and I'm sitting back at my house. So
Hey, listen,
I think
I think that's a very normal thing to do in the times that we're in. I think a lot of people prefer not to be out all of the time at the moment. But I will say with biking, it is something where, if you're not used to going out doing mountain biking and things like that, it would be extremely hard to do that challenge. And to, like, when I heard the amount of miles that they were doing, like 30 plus miles, having to carry something, and you bring up a valid point, being tethered to someone that potentially is a lot more fit than you, where you guys have got to keep each other's pace. It's just as much of an inconvenience for the person who is fit than what it is for the person who is unfit, because it's similar to how when you've got a runner's pace, or you've got a runner's pace that you even keep on the bike. If you're slowing down, you're probably actually exerting more energy than being on your natural rhythm of what you would do if you were out there on your own. So I'm not surprised that a lot of people struggled with it. I'm not surprised that that was a challenge that broke a lot of people to the point where they almost wanted to quit the finale. Hats off to someone like Janelle coming into this episode, having had a bad back, having struggled with quite a few things. I thought she held her own throughout this whole episode. I actually thought that, it's hard to say this, but Darrell kind of struggled at some places more than she did. And I hate to say this because I love Darrell so much, but has
So
the
your only player left in the game. You
it's
have
my
to
only
give him
player
some
left
props.
in the game in the finale, and I probably will pick him first again next season if I get the opportunity, because it's Darrell. I mean, who's not going to pick Darrell first? But Darrell, really, I feel like the gloss of him being this champion that's undefeated in finales, having this aura about him, something that Chantel talks a lot about, not wanting to go up against certain people. I think that it's fading away a little bit here now with him losing twice, and specifically in this specific finale, it was his to win. They were ahead going into the last portion of the game, and they still somehow managed to not win and choke in the end here, guys.
I mean, if they had to climb the mountain, though, at the end, Darrell would have won. You know what I mean? And so I think it's just so happens that this particular final was more suited to Jonay's strengths. And I was shocked that Darrell twice in the final made 2 glaring errors about reading. And we talking like Amazing Race about read your clue, read the instructions. Like, this is the one fundamental thing that you can control that can help you facilitate these tasks efficiently and effectively. And so the fact that they went they followed the wrong markers because he thought it said red because the bull's face was red instead of following the blue markers. Like, that was the one glaring error that he made. I'm like, Darrell. And then they also didn't read how to open the safe. Like, there's a huge Bristol board here. Like, it's not just there for nothing. Like, why aren't you reading the directions? So I think that he's actually still is, in my opinion, a very scary competitor, because now can realize, like, okay, I am beatable. It wasn't a fluke, but look this is where I messed up. I messed up by not reading the clue, not reading the instructions. And so those are something that he could fix. And if they had read it, they might have won.
Yeah, it's weird because there's a point where he says, like, oh yeah, the fundamentals of reading, but they must have edited it weird, because there was portions on my second or third rewatch of this that he was reading the board. Like, when they get to the safe, Janelle is trying to open it up, and then there's like a portion where he's just like staring at the poster board, reading the instructions before Janae says, "Oh, there's a poster board right there." So they must have done some Frankensteining, and then finally was like, "Oh, well, we need to have a picture of both of them doing it," and then he realized to read the board. So I don't know. There was some funky editing in here that I felt was like a little weird in places, but I think everybody was shown that they are beatable, that they had their lapses either in their confidence within themselves, aka Janae, who was like freaking out because she couldn't memorize like more than 6 patterns at a time, or it was Darrell taking the blacklight flashlight to the memory board in broad daylight, just being like, aren't we supposed to use this? And I'm just like, what are you doing? And then Nehemiah and Melinda going off course, and then Tech and Ayana having some fights during the cave portion. So, I mean, there was a lot going on. I think they wanted to highlight that everybody was losing it at some points during this final. But yeah, I think it was interesting. I do agree. I didn't say it earlier, but I do agree that phase 2 was a little bit lackluster than phase 1. But it was nighttime. It was like pure dark at one point by the time everybody got to their safe. So they were just, I wonder if the phase 1 just took way too long, and then they were just like, we need to hurry this up and let's just blow this thing so where we can get John A and MJ into the airplane, or whoever was going to win into the airplane, so we can like hurry up and move this along, kind of thing.
Well, I might have been more appreciative of phase 2 if they didn't break it up and then have everybody start again at the same, or minute and a half a minute apart. Because like if they were able to go right to the food after they ate that, and then right to the puzzle, and then run to the end, like that would have been maybe, in my opinion, a little bit more like, oh my God, like they actually could win this. And like you could see somebody that you're trying to catch up to. That might have been maybe more entertaining for me, and maybe a little bit more fair. Maybe.
I wonder if they have, and I think they don't, but you guys might have a better idea because you've been, behind the scenes challenge fans for a long time. You've probably read into a little bit of how production works. I mean, Drew, at one point, we even had someone recommending you be a part of production in the future to fix the show or make it even better. I think that they're talking about the challenge main season, not All Stars. All Stars has been pretty good in general. But do they have a dream team that runs these finals or these challenges before they actually get the contestants to do it? Because to me, that seems like a sure way to make sure that we work things out, what's going to work well, what's not going to work well, tweak things. But I feel like they probably don't. They probably run a day or two ahead with some of the challenges. I don't know if they've got a dream team that runs through this to actually see what can go wrong and what won't go wrong, because we've got a few people even here in the chat at the moment saying that there were things that were the production team changed. There was production's errors being made. Janae and MJ may have arrived at the safe before Darrell and Janelle did. That some stuff might have happened there that we didn't see, because I did find it quite strange to see Darrell and Janelle take off as far ahead of the other teams as they did, and then somehow everybody ended up at the safe at the same time. Didn't make a lot of sense to me. And also the time, like you could clearly see, like in one shot when Nehemiah and Melinda runs away from the equation that they had to do, that it still looks like it's kind of light, and then when they get to the other side, it's pitch black. So I feel like we missed some time. There may have been a rerun of what they were doing. Someone might have misread rules or something went wrong there that we're not aware of. Guys, do we think that they've got a dream team that runs these things beforehand? I'm hoping they do for a show of this magnitude, because they do a lot of things really well. I think the production value of the show is really good, but we still question some of these things sometimes when it comes to production and how these challenges work in finals. And I feel like they miss a lot sometimes, and they don't learn from it necessarily from season to season.
I would imagine that anything with like monster trucks and rigs and stuff like that, that they definitely have people play testing these activities, obviously for safety issues. I don't know for the type of final that this was, if they play tested that one. They're just like, oh, okay, whatever. They can just be tethered. They can carry this piece together, like the puzzle piece. That's fine. Oh, they're just running back and forth here and solving this equation. That's fine. So I don't think for the other parts, like for this particular final, that they had anybody really run through it. I think they just had an idea and they executed it, and I don't think anybody tried it out.
Yeah, I agree with the comment that you just had up, is that the editing, that's where I was like, the editing seems wonky, because it felt like maybe they did try the safe at one point, figured out they may have the wrong numbers, and then had to run back or do something else, or something else happened. I also know that like back in the day in like Gauntlet 2, they had like a hurricane that happened, and then they had to swap out the whole final. And that whole final was like one of the most lackluster finals. I mean, they did phase 1, and then that was it. Like that was the whole thing. They did one eating competition, and that was it. So I wonder, because of the ending of this whole season, we weren't getting a shot of what's to come to the reunion. We got a preview of what's to come on All Stars 3, coming soon. I wonder if like production was just going a little bit too long. I heard that there was a second quarantine. So if there was another period, maybe it went a little too long. Maybe phase one went a little too long. So by the time they were getting towards the end, they were like, we got to swap up this final. Like, we got to just make it work. Well, we can still have the eating portion. We can still have the equations. And then we can have a safe with all the different combinations. And then they just run to a plane and we could have that cool moment of like, maybe they're leaving with you. Because it just feels like there was a lot going on to the point where they were like, okay, all these people have been here for so long. The people that aren't going straight to All-Stars 3 need to get back home. We need to wrap this up, and then we need to get straight into All-Stars 3 in like the next week or two. Like, we got to go. And there's a lot of people from this season going to be on All-Stars 3. So I wonder if that like played a hand in it, and they were like, well, we'll just forego the reunion because all those people are coming back to the next season, and then we'll just go straight into saying that one's coming soon. And I just feel like there was something that went longer in the production, whether it was the final or the actual season filming.
Do you think that Janae and MJ they take off with this private jet and they just land straight into All Stars 3, get that special entrance with TJ in the plane, and then they climb out saying, here's your winners from All Stars 2. Guess what? They're back in All Stars 3. Let's go. But in all seriousness, how much of a target is this going to put on MJ and Janae going into the next season? Do you think that people are looking at this? Some of the All-Stars in All-Stars 3, they may not have even seen the season. It sounded like they were in production or shooting it straight afterwards. Do you think it's going to put a lot of a threat on them? Do you think it's better for them that no one actually saw this season? Because in some ways, Janae and MJ, they did win this season, but they weren't dominant throughout the whole season, and they didn't even have to go into an elimination to potentially protect themselves. How much of a target does that put on them now, especially with Janae having gone 2 seasons without even seeing an elimination? Does she have the ability to make it 3 seasons, or do we think that someone's going to try and call her on her bluff here and try and put her into an elimination at some point?
I think that MJ might be fine because there's just going to be so many big personalities that are probably going to be going at it that he might be able to just kind of hide in the shadows. And if I'm remembering correctly, it'll probably be another divided house. Similarly, so I don't know if he might be able to hide again. With Janae, I still don't think people are going to think that she's that threatening, even though she's gotten to the final twice without going in. I just don't know if they're going to be throwing her in. I think there's going to be a lot of bigger personalities that are going to take hits first. So I think that they both could hide, personally.
I think even with nobody seeing this season or some of the contestants not being, there's still players that were left on that tarmac that are coming back. Like Nehemiah knows that MJ and Janae won. Darrell knows. So, I mean, if they spread the word around like, oh, those were the champions, I actually think that Janae could maybe hide better than MJ. I think MJ is just such a big target. He's such a big boy that if somebody deems him a big enough threat because of his stature, and he may not be as well connected.
That's true.
If there is a bigger side of the alliance, I think that maybe Janae could like camouflage a little bit or get in with her social game. But I worry because Nehemiah did make it a point to say that when he voted in Darrell and Janelle, that he doesn't like that Janae was skated by, quote unquote, skated by, and didn't go into elimination. And now that Darrell has seen an elimination, I think if Nehemiah gets into power, maybe he'll throw Janae in there, unless he thinks that it's going to be a partner thing. And then maybe he wants to run with Janae, or his side of the house doesn't, or maybe they're not on the same side of the house again. So I don't know. There's going to be a lot at play. Seeing some of the cast and rumored cast, I mean, this is going to be one crazy season, I believe. And then seeing the house, oh, that house is spectacular, way better than this house that was here, and I thought this house was great. So this is going to be feeling more like a challenge season, I think, than a challenge all-star season. I think a lot of players will be coming to play to win, to cutthroat, and I'm looking forward to it.
It's a bigger cast as well, isn't it? I believe they said it's 25 people in this cast coming in. Like I think it's a larger cast than what we've had in the previous seasons because they were 20 in most of those, unless some of those members are alternates. I'm not too sure. I might be talking out of turn here. They may be alternates as well. But the $500,000 question here is being asked by Tatiana. Do you guys feel that Janae and MJ are satisfying winners? I think we touched on it a little bit, and I'll start it off. For me personally, I love Janae. MJ, I'm neutral on him. I don't dislike him. Don't necessarily think he's like one of my favorites. But very happy that Janae finally got a win on the challenge, especially because she's had seasons in the past where she's had absolutely toxic partners, and she's never really, I felt, had a good opportunity to go all the way and win. I was very happy when she made the final last season. I was happy to see her come back and do well here. And I think that she's got a lot of fans on this specific panel, on this podcast here. The one thing I do want to say is that for me, I do feel like fair is fair, and they needed to complete the previous challenge or the checkpoints that they were on for them to be able to automatically go through to the finale and then win. That will always taint their win to a certain degree, but I can't say that they don't deserve it because they won within the rules that were given to them, and production, they're ultimately the ones that are going to determine the rules for each season that they play in. So, hats off to Janae and MJ. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, but I feel like with All Stars, it may be something that a lot of people are not going to focus too much on 3 or 4 or 5 seasons from now. People may not remember that as much. Chantel, how do you feel about the Janae and MJ win here? Are you satisfied with this outcome?
I mean, I like Janae. I think she has been playing 2 pretty solid games, being able to get to the end without touching any elimination. So that's obviously very impressive. But I wasn't impressed by her in this finale. And so that's what is bothering me about this win. Yes, I wanted her to happen for her, but I wasn't like rooting for her because I felt as though both Darrell and Janelle and Nehemiah and Melinda kind of deserved the win a little bit more from the performance that I witnessed in the final. So it's kind of a weird position to be in because I don't want to say that she didn't deserve it because she worked hard to get it. And as you said, she's played within the rules and they got to the plane first, but it just didn't feel satisfying for me with how I saw the other people performed. It's kind of like a Casey win, right? Like Casey, sorry, spoiler alert if someone hasn't seen 37, but like with her winning, it just didn't feel right that like, oh, she was in the back of the pack the whole first day, and then she takes out her girlfriend and she gets to choose the best partner, and then they just get to run to the end and win $500,000, or $1 million. So it just, the momentum wasn't there for me to be on side with her winning and feeling really satisfied with it. But I'm happy that she won, but you got my point.
I will be the differing opinion. This was satisfying. I think it's satisfying for any of the 3 teams that were left. Look, to me, I think that they were playing up the whole I want to quit. I mean, they didn't have a major breakdown in the final, kind of like Darrell or Nehemiah's teams did. I mean, they didn't have one. She just had one of those like breaking points of like, I'm kind of freaking out now. Like you have those panic attacks and sometimes, but well, we don't know, but also Tech and Ayana were never going to pass them. I mean, let's just be real. They were going to like saunter up and down that trail, getting to that board, and Janae and MJ would have done it anyways. I think that it's fine that however it played out. I have liked to have seen them finish it. Yeah, that would have been great to see it. But I think whether they finished it or not, they weren't going to show it. They were just going to be like, cool, Tech and Ayana just got purged. Let's just go for it and let's just get it going. And I mean, they ate the food. Even if they had a full minute behind the first place, they ate all the food. They figured out the math. I think it's great. I think it's a great thing that Janae has as many championships as Zach. And he was such a D-bag on that one season to her. And you know what? I hope she wins again so she can have more championships than Zach's one team win on a bogus season that sucked anyways. I can't get past this. I'm on during my rewatch, I'm on Battle of the Seasons and I can't get past it. I've been on it for like a week. I hate it. I just want to be over.
I have a question though. So since you say that, like, and I agree that I feel as though Janae and MJ would have completed their that stage before Tech and Ayana were to finish theirs. So I do feel like the standings were correct. But say Ayana and Tech, they quit before any of the teams finished the final checkpoint. Would you have been satisfied if they all were like, okay, well, one person quit, so we don't need to finish this task anymore. We can just go on to the next phase. So that's why it just feels incomplete. So whether or not they just didn't show it is one thing, but the fact that it didn't seem like they qualified themselves to get to the next stage, that's why it's feeling to me like it's a little bit unwarranted.
But another thing is that John A and MJ were leading at one point. I mean, they were competitive throughout the first phase of the finals. It wasn't like they were always in the back of the pack and always kind of like not doing well to the point where, like, it's not like Tech and Ayana were the favorites, then had to quit because of an injury, and then they kind of just made it in and then somehow lucked into a win, kind of like Casey did. So to me, that's the difference, is like it was all competitive throughout the whole thing and the whole
but
this is where you have to say, if you're the challenge, make there be an incentive for placing where you do, because if you don't say that there is an incentive of winning and you don't show it, then it's kind of like, well, that's kind of bogus. I mean, so that's I think they should have said something about, if you like, be sure to try to finish as soon, because one, you get purged if you're last place, but second, you're going to get an advantage going into the last phase of the final, kind of thing.
It's funny you mentioned that, because going back to Challenge 37, in the beginning of the finale, you had Nelson running like a crazy person up the mountain, passing everybody by, and CT was just chilling back saying, hey, act like you've been here before. This is only the beginning of the finale. Like, he's just got that experience of having done so many finals where he knows that nothing that you do in the first couple of sort of checkpoints is going to matter at the end, because like you said, there isn't a clear-cut advantage. Like, the person, like, unless that specific checkpoint where they said you don't want to be the second team or you don't want to be the last team, you just got to make sure you're in front of that. But in some ways, conserving your energy and pacing yourself through this first phase would have been the best way to do in this finale, so that you had more in the tank when you got when you get to the finale. And I can also say, and there's still time for those that have jumped into the live stream late to jump onto the Nullify Take YouTube channel as well and vote on this. But so far, I put a poll up there to say, should the team who finished in phase 1 have received an advantage in going into phase 2? And we've heard that there was a 1 minute advantage, clearly not sufficient for the amount of work that Nehemiah and Melinda and Darrell and Janelle had to do in that first phase. 93%. This is by far the most one-sided poll we've done this whole season in any of our podcasts. 93% of people said, yes, there should have been something there. There should have been an advantage. They clearly were ashamed of the fact that they only gave them a minute, and that's why they didn't put it into production, because people would have probably laughed at it and said, a minute is nothing going into this finale. I feel like there should have been something a bit more, but clearly something was off in regards to the way that phase 2 ended up playing out. Maybe there was more planned for phase 2. Like we all said, they were starting to run out of time. They ran out of daylight by the end of this finale. So maybe that's the reason why things didn't play out the way that it was supposed to play out, or how we would have liked to see it play out here in the finale. Now, we've spoken a lot about the winners. We've spoken a little bit about Darrell and Janelle. I do want to give some credit, or at least give some attention to the other finalists here that also played in this specific episode. Tech and Ayana, they were the two that didn't make it into the finale, into the final phase 2 stage of the finale. Ayana, at the end of the day, quitting, I guess, giving up here, struggling, her body failing on her, not able to complete this, and Tech going down with her. Tech was definitely taking the high ground here. He took it on the chin and ended up rolling out. Listen, Tech wasn't an angel either. He struggled and had his diva moments as well. But overall, I mean, who doesn't love Tech? Overall, how do you guys feel about Tech and Ayana as a partnership? And do you feel like having both these guys on this season? I think for us, we had them both reasonably low in our picks and our draft picks this season. Do you feel like they delivered on what we expected of them coming into this season? Chantel, we'll start with you. How do you feel things are sitting with them? And would you be happy to see Tech and Ayana back in our screens for a future All-Star season?
Yeah, obviously, like they were the stars of the season with confessionals, with content. We may not have liked all the antics of Ayana, but she provided antics for us to be able to either critique or be on board with, whether it's sleeping in her uniform or flying like a bird or eating Jody's Greek salad. Like there's just a lot of moments that she brought to the season that it really helped have it be really full and gave the editors and the producers a lot to work with. So I think that she was casting gold. I didn't expect them to win the final, so I was really happy that both of them were able to make it to the final. Same thing with Tech. He was probably the perfect partner for Ayana to have. I don't know if she would have been able to mesh as well with anybody else as she did with Tech. And so I think that they were probably their ideal, well, at least Ayana's ideal partner. I think Tech could have probably worked pretty well with a lot of other people, but I think that Ayana definitely needed Tech to get as far as she did in this particular game. I think that they would invite them back in a heartbeat. I would love to see them back. I don't think I would get bored of either of them. So yeah, I welcome them back on my screen. I don't see them winning, to be fair, but I'll definitely want them on my team to get some points.
Yeah, I think both of them delivered. I think Tech had some expectations, or everybody had expectations of Tech from seeing him on the first season. I think everybody didn't know what we were getting from Ayana. She's been away from the challenge for so long. What are we expecting from her? I think everybody was just kind of like, we'll see what we get from Ayana when we see Ayana. And I think she over delivered. I think she was fantastic. She did great in eliminations. She brought the moments that we are going to probably remember the most, from showing that she slept in her uniform, yelling with Jasmine, or Jasmine is yelling at her, and then the Greek salad incident. I mean, we're gonna remember her stuff more than, say, maybe even Jody's parts. Even though Jody won so many and then was in an elimination, I mean, or 2 eliminations. So I mean, I think Ayana came in as a wrecking ball, absolutely crushed it entertainment wise, and then Tech. I think Tech was slow to get onto the screen because of how many personalities there were, and we had to like start dropping off some of the other players that need to go away from or were being eliminated early. But once him and Ayana were like together, that's when it was just like TV gold, and he was having the best confessionals, and he was all over the place. And yeah, I would love them to be back on a season of the challenge, and either paired up together or working together, or maybe even separately. I mean, I'll take either one of them back.
Of course.
I just love Tech's, like, I mean, I agree with some of the people here. Tech probably was thinking of quitting as well. He was probably happy that he got an out with Ayana being the one saying, hey, I don't want to continue to do this and put myself through this torture. But overall, Tech has impressed me because, again, he's also someone that's 50, and he's out there running with people like nearly 20 years younger than him. Some people are like in their mid 30s, some are like 40, and he definitely, has got a lot of gas in the tank. And I love his attitude to being thrown down in the elimination, saying he's going to bring the heat, end up beating Steve, I think it was Steve, right? And there was just this real explosiveness, old school OG attitude that he brings to the game that I really love. I love that vibe that he has. So I'm happy to see Tech back any day. And Ayana, for me, she had the reality TV moment probably for the last 10 years with the Greek salad. Like, I mean, I will not forget about it. I mean, I think I sent Chantal a few messages about Survivor contestants watching All Stars. I think it was where's Davey from Goliath versus David, watching All Stars, freaking out. He's like, he had to put the remote down, pause the TV, and walk away to have a moment after that scene to get back and watch it, because it was just TV gold. And I think that, it's something that we're going to be remembering for a long time in the future. We'll be talking about it. She had sleeping in a uniform, now the Greek salad. Like, she knows how to put it on for the camera, and it doesn't come across as fake. And I mean, even the little moments here in the finale with the guerrilla warfare, where she was trying to like keep Darrell and Janelle from passing them and things like that.
You gotta earn it.
You gotta earn it, which is fair. Which is, I was with her on that. Like, this is $500,000. You do not stand back for anyone in the finale. So I mean, brilliant casting. Any day that they want to come back, give them another shot on the show. They don't necessarily have to be in a team together again. I don't think, like she said, it is oil and water. They're like these siblings that have been forced to live together until old age. And if the one wants to go left, the other one wants to go right, which made for great TV. But I don't think that together as a combination we'll ever see them win one of these shows if they were to play. Now, the other team here that we haven't spoken about too much is Nehemiah and Melinda, who started together in Real World on the same season, and they get to run this finale together, almost similar to how Leroy and Nani had an opportunity to run season 36 together after so many years. These two now have come together to run this finale. And Nehemiah, Melinda, I didn't know much about, obviously being more of a new school fan of the challenge myself. Nehemiah, I did know a lot about, being my tenderoni on the show. I was so pissed off that I did not end up choosing him ahead of Derek. And it was like 50-50 at that time on who I was going to pick. But I thought Nehemiah had an absolutely gigantic season. He came back and proved a lot of people wrong that he can change his game. He can play the political game. He can do the social stuff. We always knew he had the physical attributes to do extremely well in one of these seasons. And, I think that Nehemiah is going from strength to strength. There's a few people next season coming into the game that I think he could work with as well in All-Stars, which obviously we'll have some off-season content at some point talking about the cast for All-Stars 3 as well. But were you guys impressed with what Nehemiah brought to the table, and Melinda themselves? I can't speak too much to Melinda myself because I'm quite new to her on the show, but this being her first finale, her not quitting, having a bit of a sore ankle or doing something with her ankle and still pushing through the pain. It was pretty impressive to see these two work together. And like Nehemiah said, there is a love between them, maybe like a brotherly sister type of love. I don't want to, if they've got partners, don't want to put anything else out there. But, it seemed like they were working really well together. And Nehemiah stayed extremely calm and supportive throughout this whole finale, even at the points where she was struggling, where we've seen so many partners take it out on their partners, especially on their female partners when it comes to finales. Nehemiah seemed to be a gentleman through all of this, and he really cared for her well-being as they were doing this finale as well.
I definitely, for both of them, I think that this was a really great season for them to be emerging as real contenders and people that will be called back again and again. Melinda, she was I would never have chosen her on my team. It would be like the last pick. Okay, I'll take Melinda. It's kind of like a Casey Cooper in the sense that like we're never really expecting her to do well physically. She was never, I don't believe she ever won any sort of eliminations. She was always like in the relationship with Danny, and I really didn't like Danny. So I never was really into her story arc or her storyline or her visibility on the season. So this one coming and seeing how much I shifted my liking for her, my appreciation for her on like TV, the fact that she was part of the King's Palace, the fact that she's on that, CD or whatever that release song. Like, I just feel like she really came into her own on this season and it proved to herself and to us that she actually is a competitor. She did really, really, really well. I wasn't expecting her to even do as well as she did in the finale. I was expecting her to maybe gas out or her to maybe quit. And it didn't seem like that was the case for her at all. Even as you said, with her having, a sprained ankle and a brace on her knee. So I was thoroughly impressed by Belinda. And I actually can say that I like her and I like her presence in the show. So happy about Melinda. And Nehemiah is somebody that I've always liked him, but he never played a game that I enjoyed watching. I was always like Nehemiah, just like work with that person or like work with them and then cut them in the, like, I always wanted him to play more instead of like always going down and like, defending his honor and whatever. I just didn't like his style of gameplay. And so now that he's shifted and he realized like, oh, wait, if I work with people and I change my strategy, I can do really well. I can get to the end and have a really good shot at winning. So I'm super happy that he shifted his perspective on how to play the game. I love that he brought Latarian into it because Latarian was another person that didn't know how to play the game of it all. And now Latarian is going to be thinking a little bit differently in a future season that he would play on how to play the game. And it just makes it more fun to watch these people. So I'm very excited for both Nehemiah and Melinda in future seasons, just because they are playing games that I'm excited to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a story standpoint, if it wasn't MJ and Johnny, the team that should have had the best storyline to win was Nehemiah and Melinda. I mean,
Absolutely.
Melinda, I will say it right now. I have some accolades when we get to the team portions, but I have her as the steal of the draft, being the second to last woman picked. And yeah, it was one of those picks where it's like, I'm going to pick Melinda because maybe she has some friends with Nehemiah and they can go far together. Come to find out, they were working together the whole time and they were able to make it to the finals, not only win one elimination, but win two. I mean, two in quotes because Tina kind of just stood there. But I mean, just going into an elimination, a lot of people just were like counting her out. And her storyline of like coming on, her hardships, and then being able to make it through the eliminations to make it to her first final, and then to sprain her ankle or twist her ankle in the finals, but never give up. And then you're that close. You're so close to the finals. And I mean, to the win. And I mean, it's just incredible. I don't think anybody expected Melinda to perform this way or be this type of competitor because she's never shown this. But also in her past, like Chantel was saying, I mean, she was with Danny the whole time, and Danny was the biggest jerk and D-bag, and oh my gosh, I hate him. But it was always revolving around their relationship, and she was always kind of taking the back seat because Danny was so loud. He was so aggressive and abrasive. And then when they were on Battle of the Seasons together, they were divorced. So then there was that dynamic that everybody was like looking into of like, how are they going to work now that they're divorced? Nehemiah came in completely different player. I loved the way he came in and just took command, took control of his own game instead of just sitting in the background, trying to be the good guy, just trying to let his performance be what pushes him far, because it hadn't gotten him far in past seasons. He needed to take control because he was left out of a giant alliance. And I love the way he played. I love that when he made the alliance, that they became like glue, like they were just friends, and you could just feel that like camaraderie with them, that they were just, this isn't just for a season, this is going to be for forever. So I love their storyline. And yeah, the only thing I think that would have made this season even better story wise would have been Nehemiah and Melinda being on that plane, getting that win, getting that money, and just I don't know, that would have been amazing. But I love John X.
Yeah, I
agree. That would have been satisfying, right?
Yeah, I mean,
all
and that's, I think,
could be satisfying.
I think that's what someone said in the live stream earlier. They said that it was so hard to choose who to shout for here in the finale because all three of the teams that were competing against each other at the end, they were all teams that I would have loved to have seen win for different reasons. You know, I mean, a lot of people could say that Darrell has won many seasons before, but at the time when Darrell won some of these seasons, you know, I mean, he's got the record for most consecutive wins. The money was nothing compared to what you can win now. Like, this money could really make a change to his life, the life of his family. You know, I mean, in some ways, the fans are the biggest winners, I think, out of Darrell not winning this season, because this, like some of you, I think, Chantel, you're the one who said this will put an even bigger fire under Darrell's butt now to come back and do well in the next season. I think if Darrell won this season, the chances of him coming back for All-Stars 3 would have been a lot lower. I think that, you know, like he said, he doesn't have too many of this still in him. He does want to spend time with his family, but it's going to be interesting moving forward because there is going to be quite a few people in this next season that are going to get injured from All-Star Season 2. How much of a do you think the turnaround times between the two seasons played a factor in some of these players going straight from this season into the next season? Do we know how much of downtime they had to prepare and get into the next season? And do we think that it played an effect on them doing these back-to-back seasons? Because it seemed like it was probably filmed within a couple of weeks, maybe at most a month apart from each other. So a lot of these players, they did go through a pretty similar schedule to what a normal challenge season would be, but a lot of them are older now. And like I've always said when I do my cast draft picks and things like that, as you get older, you don't like, I'm not like the way I was when I was 20 or 21 after a gym session. It takes me a little bit longer to recover if I've had a big session. So for these guys to go and play this season and then go straight into the next season, do we think that this is going to have an effect on some of these players from season 2 getting injured, or is it just a coincidence?
I haven't really heard anything about these injuries, so I don't know. I have no response. I guess maybe.
I think I heard somewhere that the filming happened, like they already were done filming this before the All Stars 2 even began. So it's like, I think that's what I heard. I don't know if that's true or not, but I read that somewhere. But I mean, that's not a lot of downtime. Like that is like maybe a few weeks at most, like maybe 3 weeks at most before they started like doing a turnaround on All Stars 3. If that's the case, then I mean, you never know what could happen. I mean, there could be injuries, but I think that there wasn't too much. I mean, unless you're like in the finals, then I could see like maybe if there was some injuries on that turnaround, but I don't think it's going to play into that factor. I think it's going to be what they're doing on that season, because we've seen like the best players just twist an ankle and just be out, or something really terrible happens. Like Leroy in Rivals 3. I mean, that was tragic. I mean, he's a huge beastly man, and then after like in the first episode, he tweaks his back and then he's out. Like he just gets pulled out of the game. So I mean, injuries can happen like that, especially if they're going for a bigger All-Star season, which I think All-Stars 3 is going to be. They're wanting to transfer from this like all-star play kind of thing into more of the actual like the actual challenge, because the house looks more modern, the house looks bigger, and they're bringing in bigger names like Wes. So I mean, I feel like they're really going to really lean into like, okay, we got the fun reunion type of style in All Stars 1. We're all family, we're all excited just to be here. Then All Stars 2 started being like, all right, we're actually playing a game for real money. And All Stars 3 is just going to be like, I want that money, and I don't care who I'm going to throw in the mud and then step on to get there. So I think we're going to be in for a big season.
Yeah, really excited for that. And the thing that makes these All-Star seasons great, and as they continue to put bigger and bigger names into this thing as well, is that there is no scapegoats. Like there's less players that are going to be playing from the start. There's no newbies. So you can't just have this big overall powerful vet alliance that's going to vote out all the newbies, make it very boring and predictable. So there is a bigger chance of some factions forming in the house that are going to go head on head with each other in the game as well. Now, let's finish it off on Darrell and Janelle as the last two before we get into our draft picks and talk about who actually won the draft picks this season. I think that for most of us, we probably know who that person would be, but Darrell, we've spoken a little bit about him. What can Darrell do differently to come back next season and get the W that he so badly wants? And also Janelle, how do you guys feel about Janelle now? I got a lot of frustration from Chantal last episode with Janelle nearly pulling out. I was a little bit frustrated myself as well, but I kind of felt like the fandom was a bit cold on Janelle. I feel like she did herself justice here at the end, and that the edit maybe has not been too kind to her at times this season. She didn't get a lot of airtime, and then when she got airtime, it was about her back potentially pulling out of the game, costing Darrell a win, which Darrell is loved by most of the fans. She also is someone that hasn't played this game for, I forgot, 14, 15, 16 years, 14 years. There you go. So she came back, I thought, did admirably this season, getting all the way to the final, and with injuries and everything, she still pushed through. And like we said, she wasn't the reason that this team lost. I felt like she held her own pretty well. Darrell and Janelle, Chantal, where do they go from here? What does Darrell do differently going into next season? You mentioned he's still a threat. And then Janelle, having seen how this season played out, how do you feel about her this season? And do you think that she sort of deserves another shot at some opportunity to come back and do All-Stars again in the future?
I mean, I think that Janelle I thought she did a really good job at this final for that memory challenge. That was pretty wild. It seemed like she memorized like 3 rows or something. It could have been editing for sure, but it seemed like they didn't take that many trips to figure out that memory wall, and it didn't seem like Darrell helped that much. So she definitely impressed me there. I love the fact that her back wasn't an issue seemingly for this final, so it made me really happy that she decided to stick it out at least cross the finish or almost cross the finish line with her friend of so many years. So I think in my eyes, she redeemed herself. But I don't know if I need to see her again. Because the back thing will still be an issue. And I didn't particularly like her interactions with like Melinda, and how she was kind of like, telling Melinda how she can celebrate with her alliance or her friends, so I wasn't really enjoying Janelle that much this season. But I do think she redeemed herself from like my more so dislike for her at some moments. But I don't really care to see her again necessarily. Darrell, as I kind of already said before, I think that he can see his shortcomings now. Like, these are definitely not the same finals that he's used to and that he's used to winning. He at least knows how to get to the end now, and now he could see like, okay, well, this is what I need to do to get to the end. I need to get out the strong, wiry, athletic guy as like a yes. So don't let that guy get to the end, and then also don't sleep on people that are really capable at doing puzzles, and read my instructions. So I think that if he does all those 3 things, I think that he could definitely take home a win. But he does have some massive players that he's going to be playing the season with. So it might be a little bit more challenging to get his way because he's not necessarily the big strategist. So it depends on who he decides to cozy up to and be in alliance with, will probably determine if he's going to be able to get to the end and potentially win again.
Yeah. I mean, for Janelle, I think Janelle is a one and done type of player. She wanted to come back. She got invited. She's a champion. You have like somebody that hasn't been on for a while. And I think she got to see what it's all about, but I don't think they're really like running to go ask her to come back on the season. And I don't think she would want to. One, it's away from her family for so long. And I don't think she wants to risk her injuring her back any more than it could be. So I just don't think we're going to see her very much on anything of the challenge related again. Darrell this season did great in my opinion because he started that alliance with his room at least. Right. I mean, I think that gives me some hope because Darrell will always be somebody that has a huge target on his back, because when you go into a season, you see Darrell, he has a reputation of making it to the finals. He's going to be difficult to beat in the finals, and he has 4 wins under his belt. So, I mean, whenever he goes on to a season, if it's a season without CT or bananas, he has the most wins. And so he will always have that target on his back. And my worry is that there are some players that have a history with him that don't want him in the finals too far or are worried about him. And if he cannot get people around him to like join in with him, like I hope that when Yes comes on to do next season, that Darrell would want to work with Yes, and then Yes would want to work with him, because that's a All-Star season 1 connection. But then again, Yes could be like, I don't necessarily want to be in a major alliance. And also Darrell came second in the final. Do I want to work with him to then make it to the final and see if he could pass me up because he just made the final last season? So there's a lot of things to go through this, to where it's like, yes, we're going into a season where there's so many big names, so many threats, that if everybody's a threat, is anybody a threat? Yes, everybody's a threat to each other, especially the guy who has 4 challenge wins and made it to like 6 finals, 7 finals. Like, of course, that's going to be huge on everybody's mind. So, I mean, I just hope that Darrell will be able to make those connections. The only thing is that when we used to see him in like Dirty 30 or like the newer challenge season that he's been able to lean on his older connections, but now it's like everybody has older connections. So where is he going to be able to find his numbers? I'm just hoping that we can see a lot of different alliances, maybe not just 2. I would like to see like a whole like many different alliances kind of like splinter in and see where everybody can fit in with each other. Luckily, like I said, there's a lot from All Stars 2 coming back to All Stars 3. So maybe he would want to work with Brad again, and Brad would want to work with him. And then we can have this like coalition of like different alliances kind of either working together or like being the swing votes and kind of like moving along and trying to, it would be really, really fun to see that. But yeah, he's always going to be a threat. So it's going to be
100%.
tough. It's going to be tough when you have those big names and you're going to know they're going to be the ones that want to take down the big dogs.
Yeah. So we've got Google Gobble here in the chat asking, are you guys going to say who's rumored for All Stars 3? Not on this specific podcast. We won't go into that. But in a future podcast, 100% we'll talk about All Stars 3 cast, how we think they'll do, and all the rest that comes with that. But for now, I think it is time for us to jump into the draft picks and have a look at where we ended up on here at the end and who ultimately is going to take the crown for All Stars 2. So these were the teams going into the finale. I had my Lone Ranger, Darrell, carrying the Team Chris flag here in the finale. Did me proud. At one point, I thought that the edit was kind of leaning towards a potentially upset Darrell. And I say upset because the whole season, Darrell, I didn't think he was going to win this for various reasons, with Janelle struggling and potentially wanting to pull out of the game, them having to go into an elimination just before the finale. I thought, what a massive task to go and win the actual whole season after going into elimination so late in the game. But, he did admirably here in the finale. But ultimately, Drew, you were the person that, you had it all to lose because you had so many players still left in your team that I think you were quite far ahead of us points wise as well going into this finale. Where did we end up on here in the finale ultimately on the points? And give us a little bit of honorable mentions. I feel like who was the top point getter for the season, and like you said, who was the steal for the season as well, which I think you might have alluded to earlier as well.
Oh, I got some accolades with people getting confessions and all that. But let's go into the total points. So coming in third place is going to be Chris with his Lone Ranger, Darrell. He had a total of 12 confessionals this episode. So you went from 206 last week to 218 this week. So you end on with 218. Coming in second place is Team Chantel with your big point getter MJ getting a total points of 108 points because of that 50-point win. You went from 255 to 323, getting into the 300s. And with my team, I got first place.
500.
I wish. It was 463. I made it to 92 points this episode. That is counting -2 points for each Tech and Ayana because I deemed that as a quit, even though it said eliminated. I counted it as a DQ. So they were DQ'd. So even with those -4 points, I got a total of like 90 or like 91 points to get to 463 with Janae as my top point getter with 116. So getting into some accolades, Confession Kings. These were the players or the men that got the most confessional points of the season. Number one was Nehemiah with 60 confessional points. Darrell getting 55, very close. And then MJ getting 43. Those were the top three. Confession Queens was John A at 51. Jody, who wasn't even in the last episode, got 43 in second place. And wow. Ayana with 41. She was even in this episode and still couldn't pass Jody. Ayana wasn't very much featured confessional wise. She was shown dying a lot on the pathways, but not really in the confessions. Most points scored, I already said it, John A with 116, MJ with 108, and Nehemiah with 90 points. 90 points without the 50-point win or anything. He had 90. Darrell was fourth with 80 points. And the next closest person after him was Ayana at 59 points. So wow. That was a huge dip when you just figure out the top four. I mean, and that's where it's like, if you can have somebody who is the narrator of the season, they are going to help you immensely, because Nehemiah getting 90 points, and that was like, he only got like 2 daily challenge wins and 2 elimination wins. So that was like 16 points there. That was the most he got. And then a fight with Derek. That was it. And then everything else came from the confessionals, essentially. Steal of the draft, I have Melinda making it to the finals, getting 58 points, being like the 4th or 5th highest point scorer. And she was like the 2nd to last woman picked. Absolutely incredible. And then biggest bust goes to Chris's pick, Kendall, getting 9 confessionals. That's 9 points. And then she DQ'd, because medically DQ'd. So she got -2 for that. So she got a total of 7. She was your first female pick, 3rd overall, and she got 7 points and made it to episode 6, which is insane. It's not like she left first. She made it to episode 6 and still only that many points. And the unluckiest player goes to also, biggest bust, I have one for all of us. For Chantel, it was Tyler. He was your first male pick, and he got only 20 points, and he was like one of the first ones out. And then Katie being the second woman pick for me in the 3rd round, and she only got 15 points. So at least Tyler got you 20 points in the 2nd round. And the unluckiest player goes to Kahutta for them getting into teams, and then instantly Casey had to leave, and then Kahutta had to leave. And it wasn't from a medical injury. It was because she was pregnant. And I count that as very, very unlucky. And I think unlucky,
so that means that
for Chris's whole team.
I was going to say, that means I'm the unlucky one, because I lost both of them in the same episode for the same reason.
And Kendall, like you had an unlucky team.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I don't know. I'll have to go and strategize going into All-Stars 3. I have started watching, thanks to Chantel, the first 10 seasons of the challenge. I just finished the first season. Very easy to watch, 5 episodes. So I will be going through some of these older seasons, because for those that have been with us this whole season and that have seen the coverage that myself, Chantel, and Drew have done on the challenge this season, you'll know that I'm a new school fan that watched from Final Reckoning, then went back to Fresh Meats 2 and watched to the current seasons. But there's a lot of the earlier seasons and the earlier cast that I definitely went into the dark. I mean, I felt like I thought the biggest mine that I stepped on was when I picked Casey for my team, and you guys were both giving me so much grief for it. But, I was relieved to see that she had a pretty decent season this season. But I don't want to have any heart attacks prior to the season starting going into next season, even though, having seen the cast, I think I actually know a lot more of the cast. They're starting to get into newer and newer players actually for some of these All-Star seasons. So definitely that will help going into next season. Now, Chantel and Drew, is there anything that we have not touched on for All-Stars 2 here in this podcast? Anything that we haven't spoken about? And, overall, I feel like this is a bit of a dumb question. I know you guys are both big fans. How do you feel about All-Stars 2? Did it step up from All-Stars 1? And can we consistently expect to see this increase in performance? It does look like Paramount Plus likes the show. They've already, obviously done All-Stars 3. I wouldn't be surprised if All-Stars 4 happens very quick in succession to the Challenge 38. I feel like it's just going to be a matter of production timing. Can TJ be available for both seasons? But overall, it feels like this is a hit that they've stumbled across and that they're going to continue to build on it. How do you guys feel about this season overall? Chantel, we'll start with you. Final thoughts.
I mean, overall, I love the season. Obviously, we're talking about these minute critiques here about how we could make it even better. I do think that it's a step up from season 1. I think for the fact that, the players that are coming in are wait, I had to go out there for 2.5 weeks and I could win 500 grand. I can do that. And I feel like it is enticing more people to come in and want to play. And so I like that it's going to get a little bit more competitive. I think that they have a moneymaker here. I think that, it seems like it's a little bit lower cost to put together. Obviously, with it being at least half or maybe a third the amount of time they spend on the main season, I think that they could bang out quite a few in a year. And I don't mind All Stars back to back to back to back. I find that the length of the regular season, the main season, that's what's kind of draining. And then when they have them overlapping, I'm like, can they just at least not be on at the same time? Like, if that's going to be the case. So I do think that they are going to be even more improved with the next season. I do agree that Paramount Plus is like, whatever you want, MTV. Like, you guys are really helping us out there, because obviously we know that Homecoming has been a hit on that streaming network as well. And so I think it's around to stay for a bit. I think we'll get to 10 seasons at least. And I enjoy every second of it. I'm always excited about who they're going to bring back. Maybe not the newer school people. Like, I kind of wish that like you had to be at least like 35 or so to like be warranted to come back and play on All Stars. But I'm still going to enjoy the season moving forward. So I loved it. I can't wait for the next season to start. And I think that they need to put some work into 38, because I think they have a really good formula so far with All Stars. That's, even its bad stuff, it's not that bad because the people are great. So yeah, I think they should work on the main season.
I find it, and I'm going to be doing a live here come Saturday tomorrow. But to me, I think that the All-Star 2 did some things better than All-Stars 1. Like everybody's storylines. I really enjoyed the more strategy that was at play instead of everybody just being a bit of a family reunion kind of thing. But I also think that there was more times where I went, ooh, I don't know about that. Or I think I see something that I don't think that should be like that. So to me, I think there was a lot more questionable calls this season than last season. I think last season was such a ball, and they were just kind of like, I think it was a lot tighter. I think this season, I think they were a lot more ambitious, and with their ambition came a lot more like maybe some sneaky edits. Maybe they were trying to like pull something from underneath their sleeve, and I think some of it kind of like made me. Some moments made me question it a little bit too much, where it kind of took away some of the fun from the episodes. But I still love All Stars. I thought this was great, especially compared to 37. I mean, once you're done on Wednesday nights watching 37, going like, oh my gosh, my brain hurts, to then waking up on Thursday morning, getting to watch this and being like, wow, comparatively, this is fantastic. I can't wait to keep on watching this. And then, but as I've been able to watch this like 2 or 3 times, there's points where I can watch it for fun, watch it for points, and then watch it for a little bit more of a critiquing scale. And there's been more times I've had fun than critiquing, but there have been times on this season where I've been like, I don't know about that, like from a production standpoint, but I still had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think you guys have pretty much said everything that I can sort of add to the season. I would just lastly say that one of the things that work really well for All Stars in both these seasons have been the condensed seasons. Less is more. I mean, there's a reason why a lot of these TV shows that we get now are 10-episode seasons instead of the traditional 21 or 24 episodes, because people's attention span has gone less and less over time. I mean, it's the reason why TikTok's so popular. Shorts on YouTube's really popular. I feel like sometimes when you condense it, you get rid of a lot of the fluff. Like in season 37, we had so many of the newbies that we knew were never going to be contenders. There's maybe 1 or 2 that's going to slip through the cracks like they did, but you don't really care about a lot of the players, or you don't really invest in them too much because you know they're not going to be there long term. Where with these seasons, it's a lot less people. You're more invested in every single person that's there. They're all stars. There's no newbies that are just going to get voted out easily. But the one problem that they have on the regular challenges that they have a schedule that they have to fulfill. So they've got 18 or 19 episodes that they agree with the network. They need to find a spot to put those in. If we didn't have that, if we didn't have that many cast sort of members coming to play, then we probably would have more non-elimination episodes and things like that, which a lot of people don't like either. I'm one of those. So it's a very difficult balance. Like, I mean, I wouldn't want to be the production team, but with any success, like a franchise like The Challenge, you know, you should suspect people to complain about something. You're never going to at least you're never going to be able to satisfy everyone on these shows. So that's why I'm so excited, guys, to look at some of these earlier seasons, and potentially what I'll do at some point. I haven't actually spoken to you guys about it, but if there's enough interest on the Nullify Take channel, I might get Drew or Chantel to jump on with me. I know Drew have just recently watched all of the earlier seasons, and we'll do like a tier ranking of which seasons do we think are the best, S tier versus lower tier seasons. And we might give a little bit of an explanation as to why we would put these seasons there. It's very interesting watching the first season because it's very different. As a new school fan, I have some different thoughts on it, maybe compared to people who watched it when it was actually live back in the day. So if you're interested in that type of content, and if you want to continue to support this trio doing these podcasts together, please consider checking out the Nullify Take YouTube channel, where we will be hosting these for future seasons as well. And give us a subscription on there, put a like on the video, comment on it. We would love to continue to do this for you guys. We nearly got to 100 subscribers in the first week, so thank you to everybody that did subscribe. Really appreciative of that. Next target is now to try and get to 200 as we work our way up to 1,000, hopefully by the end of next year. That's the goals, for this new channel. So, but I do want to thank everybody that keeps listening to these lives, everybody that's in the live stream this whole season. It's been amazing. You will definitely get some more content from us, even in the off season. Like I said, I might do a tier listing on my channel, but I do know that Drew, at some point, myself and Chantel is going to be on the Angel Cake Entertainment channel as well, and we're going to be doing something on there. I don't know if you want to tease as to what it is that we're going to do at this point, because I don't know. Like, we've had some ideas. I don't know if you've decided this is the first thing that you'd like to sort of dive into on your channel.
Let's keep it a mystery, because I'm still working some things out.
I would have to say that I have in some of my comments, a lot of people are interested in us defending people that we don't particularly like. So a lot of interest going to be like, people would be like, oh, I'd love you to defend Fessy, or, defend Josh. And maybe even if we could open it up, because I know Fanta and Michelle could be interested in defending some people that they abhor. So like Michelle and Zach, you would not want to do that. It would be fabulous.
I think that's the key there. It has to be someone that you really dislike. Like, for instance, with Drew, we know that, you've been bagging on Tori last season. It might have to be Tori for you as a sneak peek as one of the people. I'm not saying it will definitely be. We might come together at the end and say, hey, who do you really dislike the most? And then the people that you dislike the most, that's the person that you're going to have to go and defend out there. For me, like, I think someone put out there Big T. I love Big T, so it wouldn't be difficult to defend her. But there might be other people that don't like Big T, so they'll have to defend Big T. I think I've been talking trash on Casey being a wallflower this whole season. So maybe Casey is someone.
No, it's easy. That's an easy one to defend.
Who would I? Like, you guys have been doing podcasting with me. I don't feel like I've got anybody.
You're kind of more middle than both me and Drew are. Like, I'm usually like, oh, it's the worst person ever. Maybe as you watch some of the earlier seasons, you might grow some hatred towards some people, or maybe disliking people's personalities. So maybe we'll wait till you have more information.
It'll only be natural that he starts to dislike a group of certain people, that he will just be like, this is over. I can't do this. Like, if he does it, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be like, I mean, Zach would be one for me as well. I don't like Zach like at all. So, I mean, we've got something in common there. The way that he speaks to his partners, and like, I mean, really didn't like or appreciate him in any of his seasons. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm sure there'll be people that we'll find. I am in general more of a, like, I try and see the better in people, and it's like, maybe it's the edit, maybe that's happening. That's the flaw of living in New Zealand. Like, I think like New Zealanders are just too kind in general. Like, we often get compared to the Canada of the Oceania because we're too polite. So maybe that's it. But Chantel, you call it as it is. If you don't like someone, you'll put it out there. I mean, the amount of hatred you've shown Fessy here this season, is just the right amount of hatred.
I mean, I don't hate anybody, but his actions are something that I like to, that I appreciate at all, for sure. But I think that will be a really fun podcast to do in the off season. So I'm looking forward to even preparing for somebody that I really don't want to defend and make them look like they are the number one draft pick. I want to change all your minds, so it will be super fun.
Well, that's a little bit of a sneak peek as to some of the things that we'll be doing in the off season. Chantel, what do you have coming up here on the Reality Realness channel? We have had a few people come on here again asking about Fanta and Michelle. I promise you guys I have not replaced her. Chantel will still be talking the challenge with her on Reality Realness. When can they see you guys do that on your channel, and what else is coming up, and what have you done over the last week?
So I will be going live at probably 10:45 or 11 p.m. Eastern with Michelle. Fanta might be able to come on to talk about this finale. We're not sure she's going to be able to make it or not, but definitely me and Michelle will be talking about this final episode. So if you guys want to pop on there in like an hour and a half, we will love to have you in the comments. It's still pretty slow moving with Reality Realness right now, but I think things are going to start to amp up come the end of January. So right now, we'll only be doing The Amazing Race on Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. We talk about that episode. And if you haven't seen our previous ones, we have a survey for each episode if you want to go in and fill out some of, like about the task, favorite team, stuff like that, just so we can get to know you guys better. And then we go through our surveys at the beginning of every episode. So please check that out. And then come the end of January, I believe I'm going to do watch parties for Survivor Australia. So I believe that's going to be coming on in East Coast time, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So I'll probably do a live watch party on Twitch for those. And then on maybe Saturday, do a week roundup. So that's what I'm kind of toying with for that. And then, of course, as we find out more information about Celebrity Big Brother, that will be coming into play. We'll definitely do a draft pick. And we'll be going live after each of those episodes. And there's probably something else that I'm doing right now, but I don't know. What have I done this week? I've watched all of Euphoria and I'm up to date. And I've watched season 2, episode 1. I very much enjoy that season. I will be going on post-show recaps either next week or the week after, sometime soon, to talk about one of these future episodes. And I watched all of Wheel of Time as well, which was also really fun, getting into the fantasy of things. Definitely a world that I used to live in when I was younger. I used to love reading all those books. I loved playing Final Fantasy. I did play Dungeons and Dragons. Don't judge me. And so, yeah, I definitely caught up on that. So I'm trying to look for some other things to catch up on because I've been doing my job. Drew, have you been catching up on Australian Survivor season 6?
Did you do your homework, Drew? Very teacher-like there, Chantal. No, that's fair. It's a long season to get through, so I mean, like, there's a lot of episodes. So you've got to really dive into it. But I've noticed that a lot of people are really loving Australian Survivor now that it's on Paramount Plus.
Makes it easy to watch. Before I had to find links or go on Daily Motion or whatnot. And so now having it all in one place and I just love when it just goes into the next episode. It's like, oh, I don't have to go find a new link for something. It's definitely very convenient. So Drew, homework.
I am doing a lot right now, and I started getting caught up on like some of the Oscar watched or award nominated movies for my other project of the Box Office Party podcast, where we talk about the box office and movies and stuff. So that's coming up. So I want to be knowledgeable somewhat when that shows up. So I've watched I went to Variety and got some of the supposed Oscar stuff, but I'm not watching a 2-hour and 46-minute movie until I know it's nominated. That's what I'm saying. I'm not watching James Bond.
What's that podcast? I want to come on it. I love
Box
Oscar
Office
talk.
Party, did you say?
Yeah, it's the Box Office Party. It's like Office Party, but with a box and movies. Box Office Party.
No,
and that's on YouTube as well?
Not yet. We haven't made YouTube content yet, but we're on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Podcasts and stuff. But yeah, we're having a great time doing stuff. I'm doing movie reviews there, and we just launched in early January, so we're having a lot of fun there. So if anybody's into movies, Spotify.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. Like, definitely need to check that out at some point as well. And similar to Chantal, if ever there's a movie you want to talk about, just let me know. If it's Spider-Man, No Way Home, let me know. Like, I mean, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm in there. I had so much fun watching that movie this year. For me, probably the biggest highlight of all the movies that we had over the last 12 months. In any case, and it seems to be doing pretty well at the box office. At the moment, I think it's probably crossed the $1 billion already without China being involved, which is insane because normally these movies hit more than $1 billion with China being involved. I don't know if it started airing in China now, but in the first couple of weeks, it wasn't there.
It's 6 all time right now. It's
Wow.
made that much money. So it's 6 all time. It's like creeping onto Infinity War territory, Avatar territory. So yeah, it's doing pretty well.
Safe to say we'll get a Spider-Man 4, 5, and 6 then, because apparently there's a new trilogy in the works, but probably boring a lot of people here that want to know more about the challenge. But if you like that type of content and you like people geeking out about movies and extra content, myself and Drew did a special podcast on Cobra Kai season 4 from the Netflix show based on the Karate Kid on the Nullified Take channel. Go check that out. We've had some decent views on that one as well, Drew. So at some point we might need to do another one and rank the characters to say who do we think is like the strongest characters currently in the Cobra Kai universe or something. I feel like we might have to do a follow-up at some stage, but I know you're busy at the moment as well, so we'll try and fit it in somewhere in the off season wherever we get an opportunity.
I can make time for Cobra Kai anytime. So let's do
go.
it. I mean, like all 10 episodes is like less than one whole episode of Australian Survivor. So don't give me that look.
Drew, so what's happening on the Angel Cake channel? What are you working on over the next week or so, and what else do you have going? I believe you've got some amazing race content at the moment that you're dropping each week as well.
Yeah, I'll just talk about this week because I'm doing a lot this week. So tomorrow, January 15th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, me, Angie, and Charles, we're going live on my channel talking about Challenge All-Stars 2. We're doing a full season review like we did for Challenge 37 and Double Agents. We haven't gotten to talk at all about All-Stars 2, so I'm excited to actually talk to them about a very fun, exciting, get to hear their perspective on what they thought about for All-Stars 2. Then on Sunday, I have another endurance video coming out. And then Monday, I have a big challenge video coming out. I just changed everything. I filmed a video and I'm like, I want to do a different one. So I'm going to just like work throughout the weekend trying to get this new video done. So that's going to be a challenge video on Monday. Then Wednesday will be review and recap of Family Reunion Teen Mom, which was explosive, twerking and fighting. You can't do a better duo than that. And then you have on Thursday, I'll be doing the Amazing Race review and recap, which new race, same time. And then Friday, I'm hoping to have a reality TV commentary video just to see if I could put the cherry on top and have like 6 videos to do. And I think Challenge All-Stars is done. So I don't think I have any plans on Friday night anymore, which kind of leaves me empty and sad and makes me want to invite you guys onto the channel so we can talk about it before we get too long and then we get rusty and then we're all talking over each other. We don't know where the cues are and our chemistry gets messed up. So
mate, I sleep with my microphone in bed, ready to go every day. There's no issues. Like, you just tell me when and where, we'll get on it. We'll have a talk about anything challenge related or any other interests that sort of cross over. I think that the dynamic that we have here is a fun dynamic. I've really enjoyed being able to do this whole season, recapping every episode with you guys for All Stars 2. It's been a lot of fun, and we want to continue to do this going into next season as well. For All Stars 3, for the next challenge season, we want to do some off-season content. So please, guys, follow Drew on the Angel Cake Entertainment channel here on YouTube. Links are in the description. Chantal on Reality Realness. Links are in the description. We've also got the socials, Instagram, Twitter, all of those things there as well. And then if you do enjoy this content, you do want this dynamic to grow, please consider following the Nullified Take here on YouTube as well, subscribing to that channel as we continue to grow that. And I am going to be talking about the Amazing Race this whole season. So I've done the first 2 episodes. We're going to go into the 3rd one next week and do the whole season. And then very excited to talk about a show that I really, really love. The first reality TV show that I've ever watched was Survivor. So, Australian Survivor coming back. definitely will be watching that. If you're listening to this live and you're someone that thinks that you could add a little bit of flavor to a podcast, come on as a guest. I am looking for various guests throughout the Australian Survivor season. I probably won't have a fixed co-host for most of the season. I'll be talking to different people throughout that season. So if you're interested in talking about it, even if you don't have the links, just join the Discord channel on my YouTube. I can point you in the right direction to be able to watch Australian Survivor. I've been more than happy to have you on and talk to different people here and engage with the community a little bit more as we talk about Australian Survivor. Very excited about that. We've got some big names playing this season, some returning players, none so bigger than Sandra, the Queen Diaz Twine, who's won the show twice, playing the Australian version, trying to beat Russell and make it further than what he did when Russell Hans went on Australian Survivor. No spoilers as to when he went out, but I think Sandra's got a pretty good chance at, again, outperforming him on a different version of Survivor, which I'm sure she would definitely let him know if she gets past him when it comes to Australian Survivor. Guys, it's been great having you guys here. And also, if you want to get in touch with me, just reach out on Instagram, reach out on the nullified take, all one word, at gmail.com if you do want to get involved, and I'd be more than happy to set something up and potentially have you guys on as guests in the future if there is a show that you're interested in, if it's something that I'm watching as well as we continue to grow the channel. I'm definitely going to continue to expand on co-hosts as well. Guys, it's been great talking to you. It's been great having the live people here in the stream. As always, so much more fun having you guys here. And we will catch you next time when we defend the indefensible on Drew's channel, most likely. Looking forward to that one, guys. See you guys. Bye.